Hello, everyone. It's Matt Woods from First Alert 4, and welcome back to Backstory STL, where we bring inspiring local stories to light. My guest this week has become well known on social media in the St. Louis area. He started disseminating news he heard on the police and fire scanners, eventually gaining 47,000 followers on Facebook. But after years of posting strictly news, he got personal in sharing a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. Even through that time, he has still managed to post every single day on St. Louis Scanner News. Here's the backstory of Dave Walters.
I'm so old school, I still listen on an iPod.
Oh, really?
That's the only, my wife has the phone, but I don't even have, this phone is just for pictures. It doesn't even work, except to take pictures. So, yeah, I just listen, I download it first, so I go to the Apple store, download it, and then download it onto my iPod. I think I mentioned that in the last one.
Yeah, I did hear that.
I'm very old school with everything at 61 years old, almost 62.
What year is your iPod?
Oh gosh, that's a good question.
Are you talking about
It's the
an
little
iPod
gold. It's the little gold one. It doesn't even have digital on it.
Oh, really?
It
So
only
it's not
holds
even
like 2 meg.
It's not even like the ones that are similar to an iPhone, but doesn't have all
No,
the
it's like a
capabilities?
square. Oh, I got it in my pocket. I should show it to you.
All right. A real iPod.
It's just an
That's what you're
old school iPod, but I don't remember how old it is. So this is what it's even hot pink. So that is it.
Wow.
So all my podcasts are on there. So I loaded yours. All I think you had 7 or 8. 7.
Yeah, I think it's 7
So I listen.
far.
Yeah, so I listen to all 7 of yours on my iPod.
Wow. Thank you.
While I take walks and get around and.
Yeah, that's kind of what I like podcasts for. When you're doing something, you're cleaning the house or going for a walk or whatever, then you can just kind of have that.
Yeah, I'm just not I haven't gotten into YouTube yet. My wife is more into that. Now my son's 25, so he's a big YouTuber and
Yeah.
he'll do podcasts.
And so.
Can I just print this off of here? Okay.
So.
No, I'm supposed to look at you, right? I don't. Look
Oh yeah, you can look at me. Yeah.
don't look at that.
No, don't gotta look at the camera or anything. It's just like kind of pretend that the camera's not there, but we just kind of need.
That's
it
what I
for
tried to do on the
video.
other one.
Yeah.
Just look at him or glance off into space. If I had to.
So, have you been to a TV news station before?
I used to make deliveries at TV news stations when
okay.
I worked in radio, but I don't think I've ever been in one.
Yeah, because on your page, besides the scanner stuff, you also post a lot of like outings where you go to like the community events and like police and fire. I think is a lot of them, right? So
right, and one of the things I like to do is, besides the bad news, is we will go to ribbon cuttings, grand openings, fire station open houses, police station open houses. So some of it's, I guess, in our niche. But otherwise, it's just getting out into the community and meeting people.
yeah, get to see some cool stuff though.
We do, and we usually get tours of the firehouse when we go to these things. Saturday, we were at a breakfast with the Easter Bunny. There's things like that you can go to as adults, and they welcome you. And doing this now for the last 3 years of going to events, we've gotten to know fire chiefs and fire captains, so we actually have conversations with them when we get there.
How do you find out about those events?
A lot of people ask me that, and the real answer is follow 400 Facebook pages. Because I'm not only just a content creator, but I use Facebook to help me create my content. So I follow hundreds of fire stations and police stations, and Chamber of Commerce, West County Chamber of Commerce seems to have a ribbon cutting at least once a month, sometimes more. So that's how I got into it, was just following all these Facebook pages.
Yeah.
I'm a consumer of Facebook as well as a producer of content.
How far out will you go for these police and fire events?
Well, the one we went to Saturday was 29 miles one way, so that was down in the Bowles area. It was Bowles Fire Department in Franklin County.
Oh, okay.
But we'll go as far as Festus. We've gone to DeSoto, Farmington. We've gone to O'Fallon. I stay on the Missouri side. There's a guy who
Oh,
does
okay.
this scanner page on the Illinois side who's really good. So I let him cover that. I don't do much city because there's a lot of good city guys who are already doing scanner type pages.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, what's like the coolest thing you've been able to see going to those events?
Oh gosh, one was recently was a retirement ceremony for a fire captain in Fenton, and we were personally invited by him. We knew him my wife and I, my wife Linda. She does all the photography. So he invited us personally to that. It wasn't on Facebook, but we know him. So we had never seen an actual ceremony when a fire captain or a fire chief retires. So they lower the flag, and then the captain goes up to each person who was under him during his time of service and shakes their hands. And then there was a quick ceremony, and then we went downstairs in their training room, and they had another ceremony where they gave him his retirement gift. So that's one of the neatest things that we've seen. It was really emotional. We were kind of choked up watching the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they go all out to honor those people who have, the career public servants.
Yes, and he had been a servant 30 years, and he just decided to retire.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome that you're able to make things like that. And
It was nice to be a part of, really
Yeah.
was.
so, St. Louis Scanner News. I think the name is pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you.
For what you do. It's very obvious. You go on your page, you're like, all right, I'm going to get some scanner news. How did that get started?
So in 1991, it's going way back, I was hired by Brad Hildebrand, who at the time ran CompuTraffic, which was a traffic reporting service that then gave its feeds to radio stations.
Oh, okay.
So we had affiliates, basically. And he hired me just to drive traffic, just to literally go out and drive. Then, as I did that for a few hours, because there were no MODOT cameras back then, of course, and there were already people who he had hired who were on the air and were listening to scanners. Then he found out I could type. And typing for me is like writing. I started doing it as soon as I could. Began in the 70s on a manual typewriter, then an electric typewriter. So when he found out I could type, he brought me inside to listen to scanners. And he had to teach me how to listen to the scanners.
Yeah.
I'd never listened to one before. And so he told me what the 10 codes were. 1046 is a stalled car, 1050 is a crash, J1 is lane blockage, J2 is an injury, J4 is a fatality. So he taught me all that and just said, listen for the cross streets. They're going to come quick. And so we had piles of Wannenberg guides. There was no Google back then
Right.
to see, okay, I think he said Shenandoah and some. You couldn't just type it in. You had to look up what you thought you heard. And then I would literally type the traffic out and on a computer by then, 91, and we sent it out to stations. So he's the one who taught me how to listen to scanners and pick up what I could off of them and then write it into a sentence that made sense.
Yeah, and you gotta like train your ear for that stuff. Because at first, I remember when I started to hear, it's like you hear a ton of stuff on the scanner. About 1% of what you hear is gonna end up being something that you report on. You just
Yes.
kind of have to listen for. It's a lot of key words, stuff going on, whether it's crime or crashes or a building explosion or whatever is going on. You just kind of there's some words that you're like, all right, then you got to start paying attention a little bit more to what's going on the scanner.
And like the Highway Patrol, they still speak in 10 codes.
Yeah, I think the only ones I really know, 1050 is crash, and J4 is fatality.
Yes.
Other than that, I don't see. There have been times like if we're heavily following something and they use a code, then you might have to look it up for like, I don't know, like an armed and dangerous individual or something
Yes.
like a fugitive. But yeah, if you know those two, it takes you a long way.
And I have those bookmarked, the 10 codes for when they do come up.
Uh-huh.
1055 is a drunk driver, intoxicated driver.
Oh, okay.
1099 is usually someone has warrants. So those are the 10 codes you hear the most. But most of the fire departments and EMS now have been basically ordered to speak in what they call plain English. So they'll say crash, fire, injuries, fatality.
Oh, so they use it a lot less now than
They
they
won't
used
speak in
to?
the 10 or J codes.
Why did they change that?
They just thought it wasn't universal enough. So everybody who's listening in can understand the word crash or fire, but if they come up on a scene and they say, yes, we have a 1050, well, not every department uses that code, or a 1050 might even mean something different to that fire or EMS department. So now that they do more mutual aid calls and things like that,
Right.
they did away with the 10 codes. I think a lot of this probably started after 9/11, and they really haven't used, the fire and EMS don't use the 10 codes hardly at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you still hear it, but maybe it's not nearly as much as they used to back in the day. So, listening to the scanner and driving around and trying to see, the crashes and stuff, what did you like about that?
It was just fun. It was a job. It was $5 an hour back then in 1991. But it was so exciting and it was different every day. No day was ever the same. And some days there'd be nothing going on except the normal traffic, and other days we had two-way radios. So the people who worked in the studio portion and were typing the traffic would send us the things to make sure it was there, because there was no other way to verify it back then.
Right.
You couldn't look on the MODOC cameras. You couldn't call the police or fire every 5 minutes and say, is there really a crash there? Even now, most of my posts say report of, until I actually physically see it on the MODOC cameras or hear them arrive on the scene. So that's what I liked about it. I don't sit still very well. I still type A, even now, even in retirement. And it was just fun to go out and say, okay, what's going to happen today?
So would the radio stations, would they like call you guys and say like, hey, do you have this? And then you'd have to look into it, or was it all just, we're finding out what's going on and then we're pushing it out to them?
That would happen as well. They would, so morning shows and afternoon shows, of course, they would get phone calls, people reporting crashes to them, and then they would sometimes call us and say, I noticed you guys don't have this. A caller, one of our listeners just called in a crash on 40 at Hampton, and then they would send us to make sure it was really there and see what was going on.
Yeah, those were more useful back then to have like an ears to the ground, because now with all the technology we have with Google Maps and like the MODOC cameras, like you were saying, like now if you hear the cross street, you're putting it into Google Maps and you can, 99 times out of 100 you can find it. Sometimes with the like a difference between a TH sound or a C, and you're like, I've never heard that street before, if it's on some like dead end street that you don't hear a lot, or it's got some obscure name. But generally speaking, you can find it in a couple seconds now. So it's much easier now than it was back then.
And I don't know how recently you've listened, but we now have automated voices on the scanners. So it's not real people anymore. It's
there
digitized
are
voices, male and female both.
Well, and another funny thing is that there are voices where I can hear it now and go, oh yeah, that's the city, because it's the same dispatcher that you hear all the time.
Yes.
So you can hear that, or if it's the West County one. I think there's a couple in the county that use the automated voices for dispatch.
Almost all of them do now.
Oh, is it almost all of them, really?
And the only time you'll hear the real dispatchers is once the fire and EMS crews arrive on the scene. They won't talk back, and they'll talk back and forth with the dispatchers, but mostly everything now is dispatched by the automated voices, male in Jefferson County and female in St. Louis County.
Oh, is it only female?
Right now,
I haven't noticed there was always female, but now that you say that, that makes sense, because
she even has a name. I want to say Sarah, but I'll probably be wrong.
Really?
But the firefighters and the EMS people know the name, and they pronounce street names a little differently sometimes.
They do,
Such as La May Ferry, which we would call Lee May Ferry. So you do have to listen for that as well as, was that
Right.
a L, was that an M, was that a B or a V?
Yeah.
When it's a real person, they'll say B boy, V Victor, H Henry, but the computer doesn't say that.
Yeah, I like the real people more because
I do too.
because then
I
they're
miss it.
pronouncing it, and it doesn't. When you hear the robot voice, sometimes you like want to tune out of it because it doesn't sound human. It's not. It's literally not human.
It's
So
not.
it's like,
But they
but
say
yeah.
it is helping.
Oh, really?
That it's
So in the first responder community, they're kind of pro.
most of them are in favor of it.
Really? Okay,
And it's
that's
not
interesting.
costing any dispatchers jobs. It's just allowing dispatchers time to do other things when that voice is dispatching. Because like I said, as soon as those fire and EMS crews get on the scene, the dispatcher's speaking back and forth with them live.
Right. And they're juggling, 10 things at once.
Exactly.
So that's one of those things where maybe AI does enhance that part without actually sacrificing jobs. That would be cool.
I've been told it's a time saver for the person who was having to dispatch it previously, before the
Interesting.
automated voice.
Do you know when they first started doing that?
This just rolled out within the last 2 years, and Jeffco within the last 1 year.
Wow, because I was going to say, whenever I started here, it's been a little over 3 years, and I didn't remember hearing automated voices on the scanner until, I think it was something that started, after I had worked here a while.
Yeah, I
And
want
then
to
it's
say
like, all right, well, we got these automated. Most of the time, it's not a big deal. But then whenever they pronounce a road weird, then it's like, creates a little bit of chaos. If it's something big that we're trying to keep our eye on.
And I should say, I don't have real scanners. I listen to Broadcastify. So I listen to basically 5 at once: North County, South County, Jefferson County, St. Charles County, and St. Louis City. And I can hear pretty much everything on those, and in addition to watching the MoDOT cameras and checking the MoDOT social media pages where they're posting crashes and stalls.
Does Broadcastify let you replay calls?
If you pay for it,
Oh, okay.
and they'll even print it out, but I am too frugal to pay for it. If I don't hear it the first time, I figure, well, I'll hear it when they get on the scene, or I'll get close enough. But I do then, and I get private messages saying, "Do you know what happened at 2:00 today, at such and such?" And I can't. There's no way to go back and look. But PulsePoint is very helpful with that.
PulsePoint. Okay, I've never heard of that one
So
before.
PulsePoint is a new system that they began, and it's St. Louis County right now. And so I follow 15 fire departments on PulsePoint, and they give exact addresses, and that's all in print. And they'll keep their incidents up to about 100. So I can go back and see if something happened at 7:30 this morning on PulsePoint. And that's just
Okay.
that's free also. That's just online.
Yeah, I might have to look that up. I hadn't even heard of that before.
It's really helped me.
They. I think it was a week, literally a week after I started, and this was my first job out of college, so I hadn't experienced that, like the day-to-day newsroom stuff. They got rid of the actual scanners and went digital. So now we have it on digital, similar to Broadcastify, but it is it's a little bit different. Like sometimes it comes off a little bit clearer on the digital one versus some depending on how good your scanner is, I guess it might be really staticky, or you can't make out a single word that is coming off the scanner.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would just depend on what scanner, but now we don't have those. 100% digital. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I've done this 8 years. It'll be 8 years in May. May 4th, 2017 was my first post on Facebook, on the Facebook page. We had 4 followers that day. And I just started writing traffic like I did in 1991. At 40 in Hampton, there's a report of a crash. And then I've learned a lot in the last 8 years as Facebook's evolved and as I've figured out how to use it more efficiently and update posts. And that's one of the things I think I do well, is I don't just say the incident and the time and the location, but I'll try and update it until I just can't hear anything else anymore. And then I'll just eventually clear it out.
And so what made you want to go back to doing that? Obviously, you liked it back in the day, but now you got this resurgence of doing
Yeah,
it.
so I got out of that business in 1999, really, and became a stay-at-home dad. And I did that for 22 years till my son moved out. He's moved out now. And around like his junior, senior year of high school, I was having a little less to do. So I thought, well, I'll try Twitter, as it was called then, X now. I'll try just tweeting these crashes out like I used to type them and see if anybody cares. Started with 3 followers on Twitter, and then that got up to a couple hundred, and then 1,000, and 2,000. And TV stations started following me on Twitter, the traffic reporters. Laura Hediger was a traffic reporter back then. Monica Adams was another one who followed me.
Yep.
And they're retweeting me and sharing me. And Roger Brand and Sue Thomas, the radio people. So, oh, this is kind of fun to do this again. It was just a hobby.
Uh-huh.
And then about a year later, I started Facebook and did basically the same thing on there. But it wasn't really until probably after I had cancer in 2020, that I said, I'm just going to do something different now, and we're going to start putting ourselves on the page. Before, it was pretty much straightforward crashes, fires, and incidents, and maybe a few cat pictures of our cat, who we nicknamed Scanner Cat. And he became kind of the star of the page, which was nice. But then we started putting ourselves on there, and we've kind of been doing that ever since.
Interesting. Okay, so a lot to unpack there.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. So you have cancer in 2020. What?
In 2020 in March, right before
Oh my
the
gosh.
world shuts down, I get diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma on like March 2nd or 3rd. And so they scheduled me for chemotherapy to start on March 26th. Well, everything shuts down basically around March 18th or 19th in 2020. So I'm going to these sessions essentially by myself. My wife or son could drop me off, but they weren't even allowed in the building in the very beginning and they were never allowed to sit next to me the whole time.
Yeah.
Usually family is allowed in when you're having chemo, but I just had to rely on all of us who were there at that time had to mask up and wear masks and just be comforted by our chemotherapy nurses. My 3 were outstanding, thankfully. And I went through that 12 times. I finished that in August of 2020. Got diagnosed with another smaller cancer, plasmacytoma, after I had beaten the lymphoma. Had to have 25 doses of radiation for that. So now we're in December of 2020. Had a surgery to finally remove the spot around May of 2021. And so far, I'm in remission. It's been almost 5 years.
Wow.
After that, when I got through all that, I said, it's the Morgan Freeman line, I just have to get busy living. And nothing scares me anymore. We walk right up to mayors and fire chiefs and police chiefs and say, "Hi, Dave from St. Louis Scanner News." They have no idea who we are, usually. And some of them follow us. And so that's when I got more bold on the page and started doing more stuff besides just the crashes.
Yeah, COVID was like the least of your worries during 2020, going through cancer twice. I mean, were you worried that you weren't going to survive the cancer?
I was actually, might sound strange, but I was actually more afraid of living. It was such an emotional thing. I've never been afraid of dying, which is maybe why I can do what I do and kind of have an objective view of the crashes and the fires and the tragedies I cover. The misfortune of others really is what I post. And the other thing was I figured, well, I can't be a hypocrite and not post my cancer. So I began posting my cancer from the hospital. And we went through the whole thing. I lost all my hair at one point. I just kept putting it on the page. I thought the people who can't deal with it will unfollow the page, and I understand that. But I couldn't, in my own mind, be hypocritical and report everyone else's misfortune and not my own. So, Yeah, I mean, I've told this to pastors and people who've asked, that there were times I was in so much pain from the chemo and the side effects that I prayed I wouldn't wake up from a nap, just because I just didn't want to deal with it. I wasn't afraid of dying at all. It was just, I don't think I can go through another day. And there were 3 words that kept me going to chemotherapy. And it's the same 3 words that we say in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been sober for 35 years also. That was just celebrated that in January, which I put on the page. It was keep coming back. My oncologist, every 2 weeks you would go in and you'd meet with your oncologist first, then go get the chemo in the port. I had a port that was permanently installed. It's removed now. And I would say, doctor, I just can't do this anymore. I'm 116 pounds. I feel lousy. I don't want to eat. Nothing tastes good. And he always just said the same thing. Keep coming back, Mr. Walters. We'll beat this. He was that confident that he was going to beat it. Keep coming back, and that's what we say at the end of every AA meeting. Keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
And that's how I kind of run my page now. If you want to see more, read more, keep coming back.
The first time the doctor said that, what was your reaction?
Well, I mean, I appreciated his confidence, but I still didn't really believe him. But he was right. It got better. The first chemo was the worst. The 12th one was the best because it was the last one, and they were pretty much sure they had beaten the Hodgkin's lymphoma at that point. I had a pretty good-sized lump in my neck, and that was already gone by the 12th dose of chemo.
When did you find out that you were going to beat it? What was that like?
Fairly early on. I mean, I was pretty excited. My wife and son were probably more excited than I was. And they were obviously a big reason for wanting to continue going through it, even when I didn't, even on the days I didn't want to. Yeah, I was excited that I was going to survive it. And then the page had already been going by that point for 3 years or so. But then I started to think, okay, well, now I can really do more. I've got the credibility. It takes a long time to build up credibility on a Facebook page. And now I've beaten cancer, and the people who were with me on the page saw that. And nothing scares me now, really. I just go out and do stuff.
I mean, stage 3, that's no joke.
It was bad because I didn't even want chemo. Because I knew people who had had chemo and died from it or during chemo.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what happens if I don't get chemo? And he said, I'll give you about 6 to 9 months. So that was my choice.
Yeah. And suffer through it. I mean, it's like, was it, what did you learn about the battles of having cancer by going through it? I mean, obviously, talk about the incredible pain. What was like unexpected for you going through that journey?
The weight loss, I guess, was unexpected. I'm kind of thin to begin with. I mean, on a good day, I'm 140 pounds, but to go down to 116, you look at yourself in the mirror and you just can't believe it's you some days. You learn, I guess, about your faith. I prayed all the time, but I really wasn't sure what to pray for. Like I said in the beginning, I actually prayed to not wake up from naps. And I've always been kind of a wimp when it comes to pain anyway. And so I tried to focus more on the other. I had such a good cancer to have. I really did. And the pain I went through looking back on it, it's like, well, really, that wasn't that bad. There's children dying of cancer. There's mothers who are dying. And I had pretty much had everything in my life. At that point, I was 56, almost 57. So after that, I kind of took it a day at a time, and now I still kind of do. But I'm glad I survived it because I have another chance to reach people through the different things I do.
Yeah. Well, and sharing that with the world, up to that point, it had just been, here's the scanner news, and then you're kind of the ghost behind it, I guess. People don't really know. And then you make that big leap. I imagine that was like a pretty big decision to share with thousands of people your, biggest vulnerability.
Yes, it was, because I talked to my wife and my son about it and asked them, what do you want to do? Should we just shut down the page? Because I can't do the page and not tell people I have cancer. That would just be completely. And there's people who are private about their cancer, which I respect. But they said, well, go ahead and go for it. So we just started posting pictures about it since day one. We might have done a little personal stuff before that, but it was mostly our cat.
Right. And what was the reaction from people who had followed you for Scanner News?
Oh, it was great. I'm sure there were people who unfollowed the page, but I was still kind of back then keeping track of the daily follows and unfollows. But for the whole year and the 2 years, we just gained followers. We averaged probably 5,000 new followers a year,
Oh,
even
wow.
with cancer, even through the
Uh-huh.
baldness and my whining about it. And I think to be a Facebook operator, you've got to be part introvert. I've heard you say on other podcasts you're kind of introverted.
Yeah.
But then you have
Yeah.
to be a bit of an egomaniac as well, because you have to have some kind of incentive to do it and get your story out there and get the other stories out there.
Right. I mean, I think people like showing the human side. Like, oh, it's not just, I mean, obviously there's a person running the page, but then, oh, this is something that I didn't know about that person, and, it's relatable. It shows that, oh, that's actually the person that's there, kind of, in a way, like, oh, that's Dave. That's the guy who, you know, uh, thousands and thousands of people follow for the traffic news, but also he's got this other thing going on. So it makes you want to cheer for him or whatever, that kind of thing.
Well, a lot of people did cheer for me, pray for me. I had private messages from people who were battling cancers worse than I was, so I reached those people as well. And as we always talk, it's called social media for a reason. You're supposed to interact with your fans and followers online. The media is supposed to tell you the news, just speak to you. But social media, if you can have an interaction with the content creator or the admins, then that's really what it's for. And I try and like every comment that people make. I try to answer every comment. I try to answer every private message I get. There's four main things that I wanted to say, and I got this from different podcasts. I listen to podcasts constantly about how to be a better content creator, because that's all I want to do is be better tomorrow than I am today at what I'm doing at this hobby. So they say there's four types of interaction on social media. There's a comment, there's a question, there's a complaint, or there's a compliment. So compliments are pretty rare. You get a lot of comments and you got a lot of complaints, but you also get questions. So those are the four things I try and think of when people are interacting with the page. It's usually one of those four reasons.
So how much do you feel like you've created a sense of community through this page? You're talking about not just with the news side of it, but also with the cancer. You've got other people, hey, I've got this cancer. Like, you have your own little, like, bubble in a way.
Yeah, I think that is true. There's people who like the page and who follow it and check it every day, and then there's people who check it casually. But, right, I mean, getting to know, we've got to meet followers in person. When we go places, they usually just yell scanner, hey, scanner guy, which is great. It's so fun to
Right.
hear that, to be recognized at all. Sometimes with a blatant hoodie on, but other times not, just by face. Getting to meet mayors and police chiefs and fire chiefs. I can go up Manchester Road and I know every mayor. I've shook every mayor's hands and I've been in their offices in some case. And I know fire chiefs all over the place. I've met county executive Dr. Page. I've met people I never would have met if I didn't do this and if I didn't go up to them. So I kind of feel like it's all a community. And the people who don't like me don't tell me to my face. Or if we go somewhere and we're disliked, we just don't do a story
Yeah.
on that.
Well, I think I think most people generally just like there's an intrinsic feeling of wanting to know what's going on. There's a crash over there. Why is there traffic, or whatever it is, and yeah, I mean that's always been there throughout humankind. First it was word of mouth, and then the written word, and now it's social media where you're letting people know what's going on. So people really kind of gravitate towards that to just know about the daily traffic or whatever it is. But
Right, and I'm not doing traffic reports per se. I'm doing crashes, I'm doing fires, I'm doing incidents that are going on, and will have somewhat of a shelf life because not everybody's on Facebook. But I have had people stuck in their cars in major crashes that shut down highways who do go to Facebook on
right.
their phone in their car, and then they do get to find out
How often
what's
do you
going on.
have people reach out to you with like pictures of the crashes?
Oh, a lot. I had several yesterday. I had tornado photos sent to me. I had pictures from all kinds of incidents, but I usually don't use them because sometimes they're not their own pictures. I have to find out if they are.
Right.
And other times it's just too sensitive. I'll use the MODOT cameras for pictures, but I'm not a chaser where I go out and have to get a picture of the actual crash myself. I'll try not to use that. I'll use block numbers. I don't ever use, I don't use exact address numbers of fires.
Right.
It'll say the 4,000 block of Big Bend rather than saying, even though I hear the actual address, there's no reason to put that person's address on there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, like, I'm sure everybody here in the newsroom follows the page to see what's
Oh.
going on, because there's always,
That's so kind.
Well, I mean, it's like we're trying to figure out what's going on. Sometimes there's multiple things going on outside of what's being heard on the scanners. You're like, oh, you'll check that page, or for the Metro East one, you check that page to see if they've got something going on. And we use that to kind of guide what we're doing to see, oh, did this person hear it? And then we have there's a couple tipsters that call in a lot, who just kind of sit at home and listen to the scanners. And it's kind of it's a funny thing. It's like it's really niche, but the people who do it are very like passionate about it, just listening to the scanners.
When I get people like that, I say, start your own scanner page so I can follow you too, because I follow other scanner pages.
Yeah.
I want to see what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and yours is probably the most consistent, where it's like pretty much every day. Some of them, you'll go a couple weeks without a post or something.
I have noticed that.
It's touch and go. I mean, I guess it just depends on how much time you've got to listen to the scanner, or if you're out of town, or whatever it may be. It just kind of depends on.
Time I've got plenty of, and I do it with joy too. Now I'm not saying I'm joyful when there's a fatal crash, but I'm joyful, I guess, in the sense that I'm getting the word out, and that person who did lose their life, their story's out there now, and without their name, because the Highway Patrol doesn't use names anymore in their feeds. And I've actually heard from families of in crashes, and usually they thank me for posting the story and for just getting it out there.
Really?
Yeah, I've had very few complaints as far as a fatal crash goes.
Do any of those stick with you or come to mind, of like somebody reaching out and thanking you?
There's sometimes it's the parents of younger people. Everybody's almost younger than me, but I mean like a juvenile, a 16 or 17-year-old, and so those are the worst ones. And my mother-in-law died in a car crash, so I can empathize with them from that standpoint. Obviously not the same thing as you losing a child or a husband, but I write it from that sense, is that I've had a family member who died in a car crash, and you just want the story to get out there and be accurate. And
It's still so prevalent too. I mean, car crashes, even with the better technology that we have, there's also having the phone in the car that can become a distraction, and I feel like that contributes to a lot of crashes.
We were down a little last year.
Mm-hmm.
The Highway Patrol worked a little less than 1,000 fatalities, which was low, because like during 2021 and there was over 1,000 every year in Missouri, and those are just the ones worked by the Highway Patrol, not the cities or the
Right, there's still
county.
plenty in the city and the counties on the non-highway roads,
Yes.
the local police patrol. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just something that we get so used to because transportation is so important that like it's almost subconsciously just kind of an accepted part of it. Even though like almost 1,000 people, like that's still a lot of people
It is.
to lose
It's
on
a
the roads
ton.
every year.
Yeah. There's only 365 days in a year, so we're losing at least two a day statewide.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to think about. It's like, yeah, and that's somebody's mother, mother-in-law, brother, friend, cousin. We don't know them, maybe, and hopefully we don't in those cases. But they're real people who led real lives.
Yeah, and yeah, almost almost every day, like you said. So you'd said that you've been sober for 30 something years now as well.
35, and I put that on the page really for the first time. January 2nd, 1990 is my birthday, and so this year in 2025 on January 2nd, I put a picture of the coin my wife gave me, and it has a little 35 on it, and I just mentioned it on my page, and that got a lot of very nice comments and a lot of nice responses, and other people who are going through the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that alcohol and other substance use disorders that. What can you talk a little bit about your use and why you wanted to get sober?
Oh, I was just getting in all kinds of. I had a relatively short drinking career, but when I did drink, I seemed to just like to get drunk all the time, and I had some very close calls. But for the grace of God is one of the sayings we also say in AA. I never got arrested. I never went to jail. Not that I didn't deserve to, but so I just finally got to the point. I think I was 26 years old, and I said that I just got to find something to try and stop this. And so I basically quit cold turkey on January 2nd of 1990. Found AA meetings and went to those for several years. I don't go as much anymore, but I sometimes will. And I've just taken it a day, hour at a time, week at a time since then. And I always say, I said on my post that day, on my anniversary, I'm no more sober than anybody else. I just haven't drank today yet. And I don't have to stay sober the rest of my life, just today.
Mm-hmm. What makes you still want to go to the meetings sometimes?
Sometimes I would go back on my birthdays and just to give other people the idea that, yeah, the days add up. Because every alcoholic, recovering alcoholic, only has today. And most of us are pretty superstitious. We won't even count today until we go to bed at night. And so if I go into those on my birthday, maybe there was somebody in there who's only been sober 30 days. And it's not to show them up like, oh, I've got 20 years. I would say the same thing I just told you. You're just as sober as I am if you didn't drink today. Because all that being sober means is I racked up a few days in a row.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to people who have, who are trying to get sober, who have gone through something like,
Ooh,
I
gosh.
mean, you got the recovery part of it in 35 years, that's nothing to blink at or anything.
Well, the days have added up.
Right.
But yeah, anybody who's trying to stay sober, I would say, just try staying sober today. Just try not to drink today. And if you get through today, try it again tomorrow. And so look, now you've already got 2 days. Then read books. Now you can do the internet. In 1990, we didn't have internet. go to meetings, find an AA meeting close to you, talk to other people, fellowship with people who are going through it. Some will have a lot more time, some will have less. So just stick with it, and if it's an hour at a time, I still miss it. I really do. I still miss the taste of certain things I used to drink back then.
Do you think you could drink the non-alcoholic stuff that's out there now?
I never tried that. I do know people in AA who did.
Yeah.
But to me, that's just a made-up word, non-alcoholic. I don't want to drink anything that even
They still have a
that even has
little
to
bit.
claim it's non-alcohol.
It's like, less than 0.5%
Yeah.
alcohol. And I actually tried one for the first time last night, and it was the taste was surprisingly good.
I just won't tempt myself with that stuff.
But
so.
it is, I mean, the fact that it tastes like pretty similar, I guess you just gotta, just depends on the case, whether that's good for somebody or not, if you're wanting to maintain that sobriety.
Yeah, well, and everybody's sobriety is different. So however people want to do their sobriety is fine with me.
Well, they can start a scanner page to keep busy, to distract themselves from the other stuff.
It definitely does distract you, yes.
So, like, how many hours a day are you listening to the scanners?
Oh gosh, probably I'll listen maybe 2 hours total, but I'm constantly going on and checking the MODOT cameras and checking the social media posts to make sure something's not shut down, or not getting a private message from someone saying, why is 55 closed in Festus?
Oh, right.
And they'll sometimes have it before the MODOT camera does, or the MODOT social media feed. So yeah, physically listening might be maybe 2 hours total, but I'm checking it a lot to make sure I don't miss anything big, hopefully.
And is that do you ever take a day off? Is it like
I have posted at least one thing every day since I started the page.
Wow, so that's like 9 years now.
It will be
9 or
8.
10?
It'll be 8
Eight,
in
okay.
May. Yeah.
So 8 years straight, just about every single day, there's something on there.
Even
with
from the
the
hospital,
scanners.
whatever it was, we posted at least one thing.
Wow. Well, that's dedication right there.
Well, that's just something I wanted to try, like a Cal Ripken type streak. It's like, I'll see if I can do this every day. Because like you, I get frustrated by the pages who are 2 weeks quiet. And I thought, well, the only reason people are going to want to keep following is if you post.
Right.
That's the whole idea. And let's be honest, you're on the younger side of my followers. Most of them are 34 to 55 or 55 plus. I have followers as old as 90. So that's kind of the age bracket that I guess you could say is my target audience. But yeah, I just like to be consistent. I can always find a couple things to post every day.
Do you make any money off of it?
I have not made any financial money, but the people we've met, the swag I've got from people, the free food we get from going to events and ribbon cuttings and open houses, that more than pays for itself. And I never started it to make money. I didn't even think I'd ever have 100 followers or 200.
And how many is it now?
We have, as of this recording, 46,000.
Woo!
That's pretty.
That's nothing to shy away
It's a lot of fun, and it's just a hobby. I don't need to monetize it. I'm okay, and it's just something. It gives me a lot of joy to do what I do.
Is there anything else you think I forgot to mention or didn't ask?
I probably already talked way too long already.
No, not at all.
Oh my gosh, what am I?
You just kind of
I'm just so flattered.
You turn the camera on, you let it run.
I'm so flattered to be here, and
Good,
I've
thank
heard
you.
some of the wonderful guests you've had on who are doing really important things for the community, from Make-A-Wish volunteers to published authors to people handing out Narcan. Those, I can't even carry their sandals, but I'm happy to be here as your guest.
Oh, no, man, everybody's got a story. Sometimes you just gotta ask enough questions to find it.
Well, thank you, Matt, for having me. This has been a lot
of course.
fun.
And is that a sweatshirt that you just made yourself, like on a website, or is there a place?
One of our
Can people buy it?
followers had a printing thing at home, and so she made us hoodies and T-shirts. I got the T-shirt and T-shirts just with the name on it. So we said, oh, we'll start wearing those. No, we don't sell any merchandise or swag.
Maybe in the future. You never know.
Yeah, perhaps, but we're just having fun right now doing what we do.
Yeah. Thanks for listening and watching Backstory STL. We'll release new episodes every Wednesday. Check it out on the First Alert 4 app or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.